How old were you when you found yourself in that space?
24. I was about to be 24 years old, 23 years old, going on 24. And I remember that age because the program, the limitation was at 24 years old, it would be cut off. So I remember getting there right at 23 years old. I just found out my HIV positive status. I just realized that I needed to be in LA to access real services. My parents lived in Lancaster where they didn't really have any services at all. So for me to come out to Hollywood was the only place I could really find some services that really knew about how to specialize in HIV services and care. I remember getting counseling. I remember that this was the one place where I had support groups. So I had to kind of be in this area in order for me to really understand how to manage life. But so I was 23 years old. And I mean, also remember seeing other 23-year-olds, even today, ironically, I see people that were in the same housing facility as I was, and to see them going through the same exact thing. They didn't have enough fight to break through the barrier, and a lot of times I was really fortunate to have people that loved me and cared about me enough to kind of hold me accountable when I was going through that situation. So, yeah, 23 years old, and now I'm about to be 40 in January. So time flies, but at the same time, in those 17 years, I really know that I have the ability to help people now much more based on my experience.
So you're a real advocate,
Yes, sir. Straight up.
and so there was somebody along the way that was that advocate for you. Who was that person?
One of the main people, his name is Tobias. And I remembered Tobias was a person, one of the mentors in my life that not only taught me about God, he helped me build my relationship with God for one. That's the starting point. Where I used to feel judged going into churches because I didn't know the Bible back and forth. But he would actually sit down and study the Bible with me. If I needed to know something, he would let me know where to find it, where to resource it, where to reference it. But not only that, but I remember when I was going out to clubs, sneaking in clubs at 16 years old. Nobody should be doing that, but I was. He'll be that person to kind of say, yeah, you know, you don't need to do all that, or don't talk to this person, because he kind of knew the world that I was not aware of. And so it was like I had a protector, an angel that kind of made sure I was guided safely through processes where I see a lot of people get broken through. I never had to deal with drug addictions and nothing like that. I didn't have no alcoholism. A lot of that was based on protection, about somebody saying, you know, well, no, let's do the things the right way. You know, okay, you snuck in the club, but go ahead and dance and have a good time. But don't feel like you have to talk to all these people that are trying to manipulate you or take advantage of you. And it really felt like, I felt like that was my angel at that time, Tobias. And he's to this day is one of my best friends. And he was definitely one of the people that was really instrumental in my development, teaching me how to even do my first resume and how to dress for job interviews, all those different things that, you know, we take for granted, but someone has to show you the way. And I think that was the person that truly showed me how to be a man.
Now, you have worked in the HIV education space for a bit now,
Yeah.
and but there's still this mystery for certain people.
Yeah.
They don't really understand what the work is.
They don't.
When you entered that space, not as an advocate, but as a person who was part of the population,
Absolutely.
how different was it then than it is now?
I would say this. When I entered into it, I needed it. And now I'm in a place where I know how to navigate it. But I see other people that don't recognize how much they might need it. So if that doesn't make any sense, let me break it down a little bit. I would say when I first was introduced to this space of having to provide education and seek education, it was because I didn't have it. I was getting experience through my own life. So basically HIV diagnosis, basically finding out that about sexual risk and all that kind of stuff by having sexual risk. And I would say that there's so much information that's available, but we don't know we need it until we have to access it. So now I'm in a position where I kind of find different ways to relate. Based on my own experiences, I can relate to people and approach it differently. And kind of show them different parallels that will show them, like, this information might be helpful later down the line if you don't think it's helpful now. And it really gives me a chance to really kind of touch base and connect with people differently. So now when I provide education, it's not forced upon anybody, or it's not expected that everybody understands it because I know it, but I'm able to kind of meet them where they are and kind of adjust the approach based on what their needs are at that time. We got to be realistic in expecting people to, in how we expect people to access education information. We can't assume that everybody just wants it, but we got to show them why it's important and why it's relevant to them. So as an example, when I come across individuals that are going through drug use, I can't sit up here and say, you need to go to therapy, you need to get help, because we don't know what the life circumstances are that are making them feel as if that might be something to help numb the pain or help them navigate through the different things that they can't. So we have to kind of see what it is that's triggering them, and what it is that this is using, this vice. Why is this the thing that you're going to? And how is this helping you or hindering you? And then help them understand that there are other avenues and options. And so I think that's where I step in a little differently. Based on my own experiences, I can kind of navigate it differently and not come from a judgmental standpoint or assume that you have to do it this way. There's one size don't fit all. But we have to recognize that it's another person's life. It's not about what we think. We got to get out of our egos and recognize that this is a person we're trying to help. And if we're genuinely trying to help them, let's meet them where they are and utilize what they have to make sure that that's what they can utilize. And so I think that's what makes it different in how I approach helping people in the community. And I really care. It's not a 9 to 5 for me. If somebody calls me and it's after 5 o'clock, if they need my help, I'm going to help them. And I'm also going to show them how to help themselves, teach them how to fish so they don't have to come back to me for the fish. So that's what I think is different.
Now, growing up black in America, there are always different hurdles.
Yes.
Growing up black, gay, and HIV positive, I'm sure there are additional hurdles.
Absolutely.
What is the most difficult thing for a black gay man who is HIV positive to deal with? Not necessarily in LA, but just navigating life.
Yes. Wow, there's so many different layers to it, but I would actually, my answer has changed over the years. Now I would say now, the answer is getting outside of ourselves. And I say that because before, I used to think that because I'm HIV positive, a black gay man, that nobody would date me, nobody would love me, and all this kind of stuff. But the reality becomes the fact that that's an excuse. It's an excuse that prevents us from really having to be accountable to who we really are supposed to be. And so now I think with there being so much education about HIV out there and so much information about HIV out there, I don't think that's the biggest barrier anymore. I will say that when I go to different places, sometimes Leimert Park, as a black gay man, I might have to deal with some stigmas there because there's a lot of people that may not really be ready for that yet. But at the same time, I'm myself anywhere I go. So I don't have to apologize about who I am. And if I'm authentically myself, I don't have any problems. And so with that being said, I think it's really stepping outside of ourselves and recognizing that, be your true self at all times. And the world will just have to adjust to it straight up. Because if you go anywhere, you might encounter racism. If you go anywhere else, you might encounter different things. So we can't act like we can control the world. That's not something I ever expected to be able to do. But I do know that if I'm myself at all times, I won't have to sit up there and waver and adjust and shift and pretend, because that's when I think we mess up. So the barriers now is really about getting outside of ourselves. And the other thing is being authentic and true at all times. I think that also stands as an example for the other younger people that's coming up behind us. The younger generation, I mean, of course, most of the younger generation is looking for someone to look at, someone to admire, someone to follow the footsteps of. So when you go into entertainment, they'll look at the Lil Nas X's and whoever else is in the entertainment world, because when they look at their peers in a community, there's not a lot of people that's going to stand up and be their true self. So that's my goal, is to remain myself at all times and make sure that I'm available at all times to be true, honest, and authentic with anyone that comes my way. So the barriers and hurdles, not like they used to be, but I think that we have to get out of our own way.
Now, you not only are authentically you wrote a damn book.
Yes, sir. And working on the second one. Yep.
And what gave you the courage to think that your words would have that kind of power?
Let me tell you, I didn't think that. I didn't know the power of a word, but I knew the power of freedom. And for me, I used to hold myself captive to my experiences. I used to think that, people could bring up something about me at any time and I would be a victim to that. But then I said, well, let me control the narrative of my story. Let me share my experiences from my perspective. And that was my freedom. once I did that, I didn't really feel like I had to hide anything else. And at that point, I felt like, okay, so if somebody wants to know me, this is your way. I didn't feel like I had to give people pieces of me. I felt like this is the entirety of who I was at that time. Because the book really kind of took me to the age of 24. So now that I'm about to be 40, there's a whole lot more that I experienced after that point. But I felt like so many people did not know me, but so many people would have a perspective or a judgment. So that was my freedom. So I think when it comes to words, the power of those words really came from my journal. That's where it started. My book came from my journal. It was journal entries. It was poems that I wrote at that time when I was in the shelter. That's when I wrote most of the book. So my experiences were really when I was at that dark place I spoke about. And I was able to kind of just find the light through it. And also show people that there is light as well. And I think now I'm utilizing the book as a tool to kind of say, hey, this is a reference point to show you that even if it's not the exact same way, there is a way out. And so that people know that it is possible. So yeah, power in words, power in your truth, and power in freedom. That's what the book is really all about.
Damn. Man.
Yes, sir.
You just impressed the hell out of me, man.
Thanks, Unc.
Impressed the hell out of me. Because the thing is, not every young person believes that there's power in their story.
Yeah, yeah.
They're looking for power or validation through someone else's story.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
So they're drawn to celebrity, and that ain't always the place to go.
It's not. It's not. Because they don't know the true celebrity.
Yeah.
They only know what is being shown. And because of that, I'm glad you said that too. Because of that, and so many people that don't know the power in their stories, and so many people that I come across that I try to just kind of give them the affirmation, like, do you know how powerful and how dope you are and how amazing you are and how important you are and how relevant you are and how big your purpose is and why you're created? Like, so many people have no clue and no idea. So my whole next book that I'm working on is nothing but an anthology. And what I'm doing is I'm taking 8 of these people that I identified, that I've worked with, that I've seen over the years, and I'm helping them share a portion of their story. I want them to see the power in their own stories and recognize that, yo, you've overcome. You're still here to talk about this. So many people that did not think they would make it to the next day are here to talk about their stories. And so my whole goal is to find those 8 people, well, I have found them, and help them figure out how to navigate their stories to where they can find their own power through them. And I'm walking through them through trainings to teach them how to present themselves, how to share their stories, how to find what is most important to share, and how to access resources based on the things that they've experienced. For example, if one person dealt with addiction, he's not only going to be able to speak about his addiction, but he also will be able to share it with others where they can go for help if they're dealing with addiction. So it's really going to be something that's going to become a powerful tool for community. It's going to be something where I can help these young people navigate themselves. I'm going to take them to schools and talk to other individuals that are going through certain things, that have subject matters that they need to discuss or address. And we're going to show them how there is power in their stories. Not me just telling them, but them seeing it, not only through the reactions from the audience, but also through the help that they're going to provide for community. So that's what the whole next book is about. It's an anthology. And right now it's titled Respect My Story. So we'll see if that changes, but that's what it's called right now.
Now, the first book,
Metamorphosis of a Heart. That's the first book. Yes, sir.
and it's what, on all platforms?
Oh, Amazon.com is the primary platform. And I like Amazon because that's one place that anyone can access it. You can do it from your phone right now if you like. Amazon.com, look up Metamorphosis of a Heart by Greg Wilson, and that's the place and that's the space. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Every person that's read the book got something from it. Whether it's about empowerment, whether it's about forgiveness, whether it's about self-love, whether it's about religion, whether it's about artistic creation, artistic expression, whatever it might be, you'll get something from it. And it's actually near the holiday season, so you can also get it for someone else that might need it too. Good time.
So you not only learned how to find yourself, but you learned how to market your own shit.
Yes, sir. Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
crazy.
Had to.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So if you could offer a word of encouragement to somebody out there at their low point, at their low point right now, what would you say to them?
I would start by saying the place that you're looking up at is the place that you can be. And I say that because whenever you're at a low point, you look up, seeking to get higher than where you are. But most people don't realize that the fact that you're looking up at a place is that's exactly where you can get to. And then the second thing I would tell them is the fact that you're breathing for a reason. And I say that to people because a lot of times people's like, I just don't want to be here and all that kind of stuff. I've heard that. And I said, but you're breathing for a reason. What do you think that reason is? And a lot of times the fact that we are awakened, it means that our purpose has not been done. There's so much more for us to do. And I think our destiny awaits our arrival. So with that being said, there's so much more that we're destined to do. And so with a person at their low point, of course, they don't want to hear that because they can't see that sometimes. The lenses are a little clouded or a little rose-colored, if you want to call it that, where you can't see as clear. But at the same time, just reminding that person that there's something more than that moment, I think that's where I would start. And I don't want to sit up there and enforce all this affirmation to them that they may not be able to see at the moment. But I'll just start by showing love and giving love and letting them know that they're loved. I think that's where it starts. Because when a person feels invisible, to just simply say, I see you, I love you, and I'm here, that's sometimes more than enough, especially if you're at your lowest point. Because I know that at times I needed to hear that. And then when I recognized that and I seen people just kind of show me as opposed to telling me that, then it gave me that little extra push to really know that I can fight through whatever I was going through. So I would start there. And then from there, just say, hey, you're breathing for a reason. And then I would start showing them different ways to identify what those reasons are. Another tool that I use for a lot of young people that I might mentor is journaling. And you'll be surprised, I keep journals in my trunk because there's times when I might come across a young person that may not know how to express themselves, don't know how to speak up for themselves, but journaling is a tool that works. And so I say, listen, even if you don't know what to write something. If you don't want to write, draw something, but get your expression out. The lack of expression is depression. And I never let a person kind of condense that inside without knowing how to get it out, because that's when you start feeling as if you just can't breathe or you feel suffocated. So that's what I do. And that's what I think I would tell somebody at their lowest point.
Damn. Expression?
Lack of expression is depression. Yes, sir.
You got that copy written?
I'm going to. I'm going to get that together.
You're saying,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
The lack of expression is depression.
Yes. Real talk. Yes. And it's real. Think about all the times that you just held something in and didn't let it out. The way that it holds you and weighs you down, that stuff builds up. And people don't realize it builds up until you start having to react to the buildup. You know what I mean? And you start feeling different. Yeah. You start reacting different. It's all signs of what it is that you're experiencing. Subconsciously. We got to break through that.
Now, you're over at In the Meantime Men.
Yes. Yep.
I remember you was on a billboard, man, with this old cat.
Yes, sir.
And I was like, damn, is that all you can pull?
You funny for that. No.
That dude was like 90 years old.
He's old. He's still older than dirt, but yes.
And you were just like, I said, look at him. He was this old dude, man.
Yes.
I mean, my nephew should be able to pull something better than
It's funny. The billboard said the lives of black gay men matter to God. That's what the billboard said. And it was me and this older cat that was actually one of the elders in the community. And it was so funny because this was at an event. And I saw him. I was like, hey, how you doing? Gave him a hug. And somebody snapped a picture. Next thing you know, it was on the billboard. And so I was surprised. But it was supposed to show different facets and different generations of community and showing that all facets of community matter. And then and just simply the statement that all the lives of black gay men matter to God. It was so interesting that billboard was right on Crenshaw.
Yeah, near
over
Founders.
Yes.
Yeah, right in the back.
Yep.
Right there by Pep Boys.
Yeah, we had it right there by Pep Boys.
Yeah.
We had one over the church right there on Crenshaw and what's the other street? Jefferson.
Jefferson.
What's that church right there?
West Angeles.
West Angeles. We had a billboard over West Angeles. Got so many complaints about it and everything, but it had people speaking. It had people talking, and we're like, wow. So we said, okay, you're calling from West Angeles, right? Okay, so you say that God loves all people, right? So why are you calling saying that this billboard should not be up? The lives of black gay men don't matter to God? Is that what you're saying? And so it kind of ignited conversation and kind of made them really think like, okay, are we hypocrites? Why are we saying that this cannot be said? And it was really a conversation for the entire community because a lot of people felt uncomfortable with the fact that it said black gay men. But the reality is we can't act like we don't exist. We're here. So all black lives matter. Black gay men, black trans, black lesbian, black elders, black youth, black people that are incarcerated, black people going through sobriety, addiction, whatever the case might be. All black lives matter, and we need to recognize that. So we wanted to ignite that conversation and make that happen. So yeah, I was on that billboard, and I was up there for maybe, 6 months? 6 months.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, I mean, there's this toxic masculinity
Yep.
in the black community.
Yes.
And so when I saw you up there, I was like, oh, man, is he going to be safe?
Yo.
You know?
Yeah.
Because there's some dudes out there, they don't understand it.
They don't.
But their way of dealing with that lack of understanding is to bring harm
Absolutely.
to folk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yep.
damn, let them get the old dude first.
Get him first. Go get him. You know what? That's interesting that you said that too. I would say that most people recognize me from the billboard. So that's the first thing that was kind of interesting because people will see me randomly like, hey. And I'm like, hey. So that was interesting. But women were okay. Women were the ones that approached me and said, oh, I remember you from the billboard. I recognize you, da-da-da. But the dudes that was with the women, they recognized me too, but they were the ones that were more standoffish. And so I wouldn't say that it ignited conversation for them, but it might have ignited discomfort based on other people's, and I'm not saying everybody, but some people might have been interested and might have felt that it might have projected some different things around their sexuality that they were not ready to talk about or face. So it might have made some people uncomfortable. But at the same time, I think the fact that the conversation is being had is enough in itself. And then also when people come to the website, it kind of shows that there are places and resources for people that may not know where to go if they were black gay men and said, okay, I don't feel like I belong because my community won't embrace me or my community won't love me or say that, hey, we got you. So now you know somewhere that will. And I think that's what kind of started off that push. And so I think I'm glad I did it. And, you know, I mean, I'm a man, too, so if they try to come at me, they want to try it, what's up? No, they don't know. But nah, I didn't have any problems, though. Thank God I didn't have no problems.
Now, I've been over to In the Meantime Men.
Yes, sir. Yep.
They don't let no women in there, huh?
No, women come. We have women that come every week to our weekly discussion groups. The main mission is, the mission statement is, in the meantime, Men's Group Inc. is purpose to enrich, empower, and extend the lives of intergenerational black men respectful of sexual orientation through sexual, educational, health, and wellness programs and services. So that's the mission statement. But over time, being that it's been existing for 24 years, over time we find that the women will come in, we'll find that the trans population will come in, and we don't turn anyone away. What we do is we extend it in that sense, but we also make sure that we make it clear that a lot of the programmatic aspects are focused for black gay men. So that part hasn't shifted. But when it comes down to our group discussions and events, everyone is welcome and they all come.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember when it was the Carl Bean Center.
Yes.
I remember I drive by there and I was like,
yep.
I hate to say this, but when I drove by it, I thought about death.
Yeah.
I thought about death because it was during the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And people were dying.
Mm-hmm. Seriously.
You know, my wife's hairdresser, a friend of an attorney I know.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it was actually the brother of an attorney I know died. And you could see him just wasting away from this really, strong guy to nothing. And so that's why when I drove by the Carl Bean Center, I'd always think of death.
Right.
Because that's really what it was.
Yeah.
And HIV, I didn't see a difference between HIV and AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
Mm-hmm.
And then, people talk about Magic Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Magic was one of my clients.
Yeah.
And so to see Magic, I think
Thriving.
people early on were like, when he's going to die.
Yeah. They
Right?
assumed, yeah.
And to see him now, thriving.
Completely.
If there's not an example of being able to thrive
He's that.
through this, he's it.
He's been that.
You know?
And he brought it to the surface to where we can talk about it differently.
Yeah.
And imagine if he had never came out with his HIV status. It'll be a whole different kind of world. And I will say this too. I'm glad you brought up the Carl Bean Center because, yes, it was an AIDS hospice before. And what I tell people that recognize that or remember that, I say, listen, imagine being in a place and having the opportunity to be in a place where people once came to end life, to now they can come so we can extend and preserve their life. It really gives us an opportunity and a responsibility to really make sure people know that, there's so much more that can happen no matter what your status is. It used to be an AIDS hospice. We still recognize that it's still a historical landmine. We still have a lot of people that come there and say, hey, I used to work here and I used to help care for people. And I like to hear their stories. I designate time and have them sit down with me. Let me know what that was like. Share that with me because I want to know. I can't pretend that the legacy before me is not existent or is not important. That all matters. And I think those stories need to be told even more. With Carl Bean passing away earlier this year, I think that there's so much that I wish I could have asked. I wish there's so much more information I could have had because he's changed so many lives internationally. And I think that just to have him share his story a little bit more than he may have, that would have been powerful. So I think, going to the Carl Bean Center, it has a different kind of feel to it. But I also think that kind of gave us the reason why we wanted to ignite and the Los Angeles Black AIDS Monument that now exists on the grounds of Carl Bean House. And that was on June 27th this year, actually. We actually had that unveiled. And it's something that's going to recognize all the people that may have been lost to complications around HIV and AIDS, but also it's going to recognize people that have contributed to the fight. Because over these years, 40 years, it's crazy, older than me, longer than I have been existent. HIV's been here. And so many people came from a place where the medication was really killing them off. So yes, when you mentioned that people would come in here and it was hard to disassociate HIV from AIDS because once somebody had an HIV diagnosis, it wasn't much longer before they would pass away. Now, most people don't even have to get to the AIDS aspect. They can take care of their HIV and manage it to where they can be undetectable and not even have to worry about life being as short as sometimes it was at that point in time. So I'm really glad that we're at a place that we are now. Magic Johnson is an inspiration, even though people try to come up with their own dictation of why he's okay and everybody else, he takes the same medication that we all have access to. So it's not that he did something different. It's just the fact that he had a doctor that he really listened to and he did what he's supposed to do. And that's what I'm doing because I want to be here to help share my story and help impact lives. And I want to make sure I'm an inspiration for somebody else. So I'm going to do exactly what my doctor tell me to do. I'm not Magic Johnson and I don't have his money yet. But I will tell you that it is important that we recognize that it's really in our hands and it's our responsibility to take care of our lives.